This list includes the most important 10 Roman emperors. This top 10 is a selection out of dozens of emperors. Even in the middle of the 3rd century, there had been more than 20 emperors within 50 years. This list contains also Julius Caesar, although he was no emperor, officially. But all emperors in the next few centuries after him got the title Caesar, so it is clear that he must be a part of the list. This list can also include the emperor of the Eastern Roman Empire because this empire is the legitimate successor of the common empire after the Western Empire vanished during the 5th century. The rank of the emperors depends not only on the success of their decisions during their reign but also on the influence of their laws and battles and cultural and religious inputs in the long run after their deaths. This is why, for example, Caracalla is a member of this list.
Antoninus Pius, 138 to 161, the Silver Age. His reign is notable for the peaceful state of the empire, with no major revolts or military incursions during this time, and for his governing without ever leaving Italy. A successful military campaign in southern Scotland early in his reign resulted in the construction of the Antonine Wall. Antoninus was an effective administrator, leaving his successors a large surplus in the treasury, expanding free access to drinking water throughout the empire, encouraging legal conformity, and facilitating the enfranchisement of freed slaves. But there is the question if the reign of Antoninus comprised a succession of grossly wasted opportunities. Brief is that Antoninus might have waged preventive wars to head off these outsiders.
Caracalla, 198 to 217, and Roman citizenship. Caracalla, formerly known as Antoninus. He was a member of the Severan dynasty. Caracalla's reign became notable for Constitutio Antoniniana, which granted Roman citizenship to all free men throughout the Roman Empire. Caracalla became known for the construction of the Baths of Caracalla in Rome. The ancient sources portray Caracalla as a tyrant and as a cruel leader. Modern works continue to portray Caracalla as an evil ruler, painting him as one of the most tyrannical of all Roman emperors.
Theodosius, 379 to 395, the last United Empire. Theodosius I. He is best known for making Christianity the state religion of the Roman Empire. He replaced Valens, who had been killed in the Battle of Adrianople. On accepting his elevation, he campaigned with limited success against Goths and other barbarians who had invaded the empire. He issued decrees that effectively made Nicene Christianity the official state religion of the Roman Empire, including the Edict of Thessalonica. In 393, he banned the pagan rituals of the Olympic Games. The year of his death was the last year with the United Empire. In 395 it was maybe a good idea to have new emperors each for the West and the East, as it was often usual the century before. But after Theodosius's death, the empire was never been united again.
Mark Aurel, 161 to 180, the last real Roman emperor. He was the last of the rulers known as the Five Good Emperors, which selected their successor by adoption. He was the last emperor of the Pax Romana, 27 BC to 180. In 161, Marcus succeeded to the throne alongside his adoptive brother, who took the name Lucius Verus, died 169. The reign of Marcus Aurelius was marked by military conflict. In the east, the Roman Empire fought successfully with the revitalized Parthian Empire and the rebel kingdom of Armenia. Marcus defeated the Marcomanni in the Marcomannic Wars, but in 165 or 166 the Antonine Plague broke out and devastated the population of the Roman Empire. About simultaneous, the Chinese Han Empire suffered also by epidemics, probably the same. Han China collapsed. But Rome did overcome the crisis. Mark Aurel was known to be the last in the line of Latin emperors. He spoke Latin as his mother language and was a Stoic philosopher. Later emperors were born mostly from the provinces.
Constantine, 324 to 337, the rise of Christianity and new capital. He emerged victorious in the civil wars to become the sole ruler of the Roman Empire by 324. Constantine enacted administrative, financial, social and military reforms to strengthen the empire. Constantine pursued successful campaigns against the tribes on the Roman frontiers, even resettling territories abandoned by his predecessors during the crisis of the 3rd century. Constantine was the first Roman emperor to convert to Christianity. Although he lived much of his life as a pagan, he began to favor Christianity beginning in 312, finally becoming a Christian and being baptized. He played an influential role in the proclamation of the Edict of Milan in 313, which declared tolerance for Christianity in the Roman Empire. He convoked the First Council of Nicaea in 325, which produced the statement of Christian belief known as the Nicene Creed. He built a new imperial residence at Byzantium and renamed the city Constantinople, now Istanbul, after himself. It subsequently became the capital of the empire for more than 1,000 years.
Trajan, 98 to 117, the maximum extent. Trajan is remembered as a successful soldier emperor leading the empire to attain its maximum territorial extent by the time of his death in 117. He is also known for his philanthropic rule, overseeing extensive public building programs and implementing social welfare policies, which earned him his enduring reputation as the second of the 5 good emperors. Trajan was born close to modern Seville in present-day Spain, but he was born a Roman citizen. Early in his reign, he annexed the Nabatean kingdom, creating the province of Arabia Petrea. His conquest of Dacia enriched the empire greatly, as the new province possessed many valuable gold mines. Trajan's war against the Parthian Empire ended with the sack of the capital Ctesiphon and the annexation of Armenia and Mesopotamia. His campaigns expanded the Roman Empire to its greatest territorial extent. He was succeeded by his cousin Hadrian, whom Trajan supposedly adopted on his deathbed.
Diocletian, 284 to 311, the end of the crisis. In the 3rd century, the empire passed a heavy crisis. The crisis included the economy and also the military system. For example, Emperor Valerian was captured in a war against the Parthians and executed. But the crisis was also an interior crisis, with very many former generals as usurpators. But Diocletian restabilized the empire. Diocletian was born to a family of low status in Dalmatia, but he made a career in the army up to the rank of a general and later he became emperor. He appointed fellow officer as Augustus, co-emperor and delegated 2 other fellows as junior co-emperors, each with the title Caesar. Under this tetrarchy, the rule of 4, each emperor would rule over a quarter division of the empire. Diocletian separated and enlarged the empire's civil and military services and reorganized the empire's provincial divisions, establishing the largest and most bureaucratic government in the history of the empire. He styled himself an autocrat, elevating himself above the empire's masses. The dominate began. But the Edict on Maximum Prices, 301, his attempt to curb inflation via price controls, was counterproductive and quickly ignored. Diocletian became the first Roman emperor to abdicate the position voluntarily.
Caesar, 48 BC to 44 BC, the first voluntary solo ruler. In 60 BC, Caesar, Crassus and Pompey formed the first triumvirate, a political alliance that dominated Roman politics for several years. Caesar rose to become one of the most powerful politicians in the Roman Republic through a string of military victories in the Gallic Wars, completed by 51 BC. These achievements and the support of his veteran army threatened to eclipse the standing of Pompey, who had realigned himself with the Senate after the death of Crassus in 53 BC. Caesar openly defied the Senate's authority by crossing the Rubicon and marching towards Rome at the head of an army. This began Caesar's civil war, which he won, leaving him in a position of near unchallenged power and influence. After assuming control of the government, Caesar began a program of social and governmental reforms, including the creation of the Julian calendar. He gave citizenship to many residents of far regions of the Roman Republic. He was eventually proclaimed dictator for life. On the Ides of March 44 BC, Caesar was assassinated by a group of rebellious senators led by Brutus and Cassius, who stabbed him to death.
Justinian, 527 to 565, the Eastern Roman Empire on the top. His reign is marked by the ambitious, but only partly realized, restoration of the empire by the Eastern Empire. This ambition was expressed by the partial recovery of the territories of the defunct Western Roman Empire. His generals swiftly conquered the Vandal kingdom in North Africa and conquered the Ostrogothic kingdom, restoring Dalmatia, Sicily, Italy, and Rome to the empire after more than half a century of rule by the Ostrogoths. But the expansion was stopped by economic difficulties resulting from volcanic eruptions leading to famines and Justinian, 527 to 565, the Eastern Roman Empire on the top. His reign is marked by the ambitious, but only partly realized, restoration of the empire by the Eastern Empire. This ambition was expressed by the partial recovery of the territories of the defunct Western Roman Empire. His generals swiftly conquered the Vandal kingdom in North Africa and conquered the Ostrogothic kingdom, restoring Dalmatia, Sicily, Italy, and Rome to the empire after more than half a century of rule by the Ostrogoths. But the expansion was stopped by economic difficulties resulting from volcanic eruptions leading to famines and the plague, reducing the population in 542. A still more resonant aspect of his legacy was the uniform rewriting of Roman law, the Corpus Juris Civilis, which is still the basis of civil law in many modern states. His reign also marked a blossoming of Byzantine culture, and his building program yielded works such as the Hagia Sophia. He plague, reducing the population in 542. A still more resonant aspect of his legacy was the uniform rewriting of Roman law, the Corpus Juris Civilis, which is still the basis of civil law in many modern states. His reign also marked a blossoming of Byzantine culture, and his building program yielded works such as the Hagia Sophia.
Augustus, 31 BC to 14 AD, the Golden Age. Augustus, born Octavius, was the first Roman emperor. His status as the founder of the Roman Principate has consolidated an enduring legacy as one of the most effective emperors. The reign of Augustus initiated an era of relative peace, known as the Pax Romana. After Caesar's death, Octavius was named in Caesar's will as his adopted son and heir. He, Mark Antony and Marcus Lepidus formed the Second Triumvirate to defeat the assassins of Caesar. The Triumvirate was torn apart by the competing ambitions of its members. Lepidus was exiled in 36 BC, and Antony was defeated by Octavian at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC. After the demise of the Second Triumvirate, Augustus restored the outward facade of the Free Republic, with governmental power vested in the Roman Senate, the executive magistrates, and the legislative assemblies, yet maintained autocratic authority, by having the Senate grant him as supreme military commander, tribune and censor. Augustus dramatically enlarged the empire, annexing Egypt and other areas, but suffered a major setback in Germania.